About transforming the Roman world. So we're moving away from obviously the Roman Empire into the Middle Ages. So we're going to start by talking about a guy named Charlemagne who's going to unite a lot of Western Europe. And we'll talk about kind of what happened as a result of the fall of Rome. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so the new Germanic kingdom. So the Germanic peoples began moving into the lands of the Roman Empire around the 3rd century. Now, Rome doesn't officially really fall until the 5th century, so it's about 200 years that they're moving in. But the Visigoths occupied Spain and Italy. The Ostrogoths later will take control of that land in Italy. And then the Angles and the Saxons took over Britain. The Saxons also took over northern Germany, and then the Franks took over France. And the longest lasting of the kingdoms was the kingdom of the Franks. And Clovis is going to establish it around 500, so not long after the fall of Rome. Clovis was a very strong military leader, and he was actually the first Germanic ruler to convert to Christianity. And so by doing that, he's going to win the support of the Roman Catholic Church, which, as we will find out, is a very powerful institution in Europe during the Middle Ages. Okay, so this right here shows the Germanic kingdoms and kind of where they ended up. So you could see we're talking about the Franks. Okay, so that's this area here. Now, obviously, this will eventually become what is known as France. Okay, but you have the Burgundians, you got the Ostrogoths. This is the Angles and the Saxons here. Okay, the Saxons, and then Visigoths. And then this over here, remember, this still exists. The Roman Empire does still exist as the Eastern Roman Empire or the Byzantine Empire. Okay, so remember that's still going on. Okay, so by the 4th century, Christianity had become the supreme religion of the Roman Empire. So they developed a system of organization, and it's kind of like a pyramid, which is why we included this on here. So at the top is going to be the Pope, and then at the bottom of the pyramid is the laity. Okay, laity meaning just the regular people. So the priests had local parishes, and then a group of parishes makes up what's known as a bishopric, okay, which is headed by a bishop. And then a group of bishoprics is headed by an archbishop, and that is an archbishopric, okay? So if you think about it, and let's think about this in terms we know. So if you think about it as if a priest is a mayor, okay, so a mayor is in control of one town, okay, and then a group of towns makes up a county, okay, so a parish would be similar to a town, a bishopric would be similar to a county, and then an archbishopric would be like a state, okay, so a group of counties make up a state, and then on the top you have the Bishop of Rome. So he eventually claimed to be the leader of the Roman Catholic Church. Obviously, it's centered in Rome. And so he is now known as the Pope. Okay, Pope means father. Okay, and it's based on the belief that Jesus gave Peter the keys to heaven. Okay, so there's a part of the Bible that says that on this rock I will build my church, that Jesus said. So he basically said that on this rock, Peter, I will build my church. So that's when he's giving him the keys to heaven. So basically, whatever Peter says is how you're going to get into heaven. So whatever Peter teaches. And so he's the first bishop of Rome. He's the first pope. Okay, so the pope would be like the president, if we're looking at it in the context that we're looking at it here. Okay, so he would be like the leader of the country. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you and kind of the hierarchy that we see. Okay, so most Western Europeans accepted the Pope as a leader, but his role was really undecided, especially early on. But Pope Gregory I, who's going to rule from 590 to 604, will actually extend the power of the papacy. So one thing he's going to do is he's going to take political control over Rome and its surrounding areas. So this will be known as the Papal States. Okay, this map here marks the territory of the Papal States. And he's going to use church revenues in order to raise armies, and he's actually going to fight off the Byzantines and the Lombards. So the Pope is acting as a political ruler, and he is leading armies into war. And so this is going to extend his power within the church. And eventually they're going to convert, he's going to convert non-Christians through the monastic movement, which we'll get into more in depth with the next set of notes. Okay, and we'll actually talk about a little bit here. So, the monks, they separated themselves from worldly everyday life in order to dedicate themselves to God. So monasticism is the living the life of a monk. Okay, so in the 6th century, a guy by the name of Benedict, Saint Benedict, will found an order known as the Benedictine monks. And basically, Benedict was very concerned that idle hands are the devil's playthings. Okay, it's kind of that old saying. He was very concerned that if people were left to their own devices, then they would sin. Okay, so what he did is he just filled up the monks' days with activities. A lot of these activities revolved around prayer and physical labor, but all aspects of Benedictine life were communal. And so the abbot or the father ruled each Benedictine monastery. And they took a vow of poverty, and because of their commitment, they became the heroes of Christian civilization. And they became the social workers of society. They became like the doctors of society. A lot of their monasteries, people who were sick or injured would come there in search of treatment. But they also became important centers of learning as well. And these monks would spread Christianity. And so missionaries are people who are sent out to carry a religious message. Okay, so that's what a missionary is. Okay. So women could become nuns. They can dedicate their lives to God just like men. And really, if you were a woman in the Middle Ages and you didn't want to just get married and have babies, your other option was you became a nun. Okay, so women, if you wanted to learn, especially if you want to learn to read, get kind of an education, this was the only way to do it. So nuns lived in convents that was headed by an abbess, or abbesses is the plural, but it was headed by an abbess, and most of these nuns belonged to royal houses. So, like I said, the only way for women to actually get an education was to become a nun. So one example of this is the Abbess Hilda. Okay, that's her right here. And she founded a monastery in Whitby in 657, where she gave learning a very important role and actually ended up educating 5 future bishops. So this is an example of a woman who is using her position in order to have an impact on the government and the political decisions. Okay, so Charlemagne and the Carolingians. So in the 7th century, the Frankish kings have pretty much lost their power. Because the chief officers of the king pretty much took control. So a guy named Pepin is going to assume the throne. And it's not really Pepin that we care about, it's his son. Okay, his son's going to be known as Charles the Great or Charlemagne. Okay, it's Charles Magna meaning great, so that's where we get Charlemagne. So he was a strong warrior and statesman and a devout Christian. He was really similar to Alexander the Great in personality and in the way he carried himself. Okay, so Alexander was known as a very good warrior and a very good statesman as well. But he expanded the Frankish kingdoms into what will be known as the Carolingian Empire. So it takes up most of Western and Central Europe. And in 800, he's actually going to be crowned Roman Emperor, which this is a huge, 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 huge deal. Because this is the first time that a Germanic person is being crowned Roman Emperor. It's not only testifying to the enduring nature of the Roman Empire, because this is 300 years after the Roman Empire fell, but also it symbolizes the coming together of the two cultures, of the Christian and the Germanic. Okay, so the Pope crowned him emperor, and this was a huge, huge deal in validating his claim to the throne, and validating all Germanic rulers' claims to their throne. Okay, so this right here shows the extent of the Carolingian Empire. Okay, so you can see the territories in purple is what he actually conquered, and then the yellow here, this is the they're basically tributary provinces. So basically, he doesn't control them, but they're very friendly to him. Okay, and then the green is the Byzantine Empire. Okay, so you can see kind of where they've been. And this eventually is what when he dies, this is how his kingdom gets divided. Okay, between his sons and grandsons. So Charlemagne strongly supported learning. Okay, so this is going to lead to what is going to be known as the Carolingian Renaissance. Renaissance meaning rebirth. And so as a result of this, there was a renewed interest in Latin culture and classical works like that of the Greeks and the Romans. So monasteries played an important role in that. And that the Benedictine monks actually copied Christian and Latin manuscripts in writing rooms known as scriptoria. So most of the Roman works that we actually have today only exist because of these Carolingian monks. Okay, we're not going to watch this video, but if you want to watch this on your own, it is on YouTube. It's Charlemagne and the Franks. Don't forget to do your processor, and you guys all have a wonderful day.